Welcome everyone. Today we're speaking to Tony and Alisa DiLorenzo from One Extraordinary Marriage. Thank you very, very much, both of you, for being willing to participate in our Celebrate Life Summit, the first ever. And Crystal and I are just so excited to be able to share your insights and thoughts about relationships with our people that are taking part in the summit. We're really excited.
Wonderful.
Yeah, thanks for having us. We're really excited.
So what made you both start the One Extraordinary Marriage blog and podcasts?
You want to start?
Sure. Gosh, we're going back to 2008 now.
Mm-hmm.
Tony and I were getting ready to lead a small group at our church on intimacy, and in doing some research leading up to that, we'd come across some couples that had had sex. One couple, for her husband's 40th birthday, she gave him a year of sex. That was, the one birthday present that nobody else could give him. And then another couple, he was a reporter for the Denver Post, and he had been studying these guys in one of the Norwegian countries who were members of the 100-Day Club. They'd gone 100 days without. And so Tony got the idea, what if we, studied 8 weeks? What if we, for 8 weeks, attempted to have sex every day for that period? And we ended up going 40 out of 60 days.
Yep.
And from that, we were journaling through that process and saw the changes that it made in our marriage. And the following summer, so the summer of 2009, we spoke at a marriage retreat about our experience, and that's where it started to snowball. There were so many questions, and people really wanted to know more about, well, how does focusing on intimacy really improve your marriage? And so from that, the idea behind One was born, and we launched in the fall of 2009.
Yes, 2000. Yeah. So it took us It took us over a year before we even really told a lot of people about it. It wasn't something big. It wasn't really something that we thought about. And so then we launched the blog, and Alisa and I liked writing, but not a lot. And so in January 13th, 2010, we had our first podcast, which was episode 1 of the One Extraordinary Marriage podcast. And from that point on, we did a little bit of blogging, and up to now, we have since stopped blogging, like actual writing, some time ago, and we're on episode 102, and we found our voice in talking, and it's been a fun ride to learn, just learn along the way with a lot of our listeners, and learn about ourselves, and we go back and we listen. It's something very different than writing. Podcasting, you can always go back and can listen, and you can look at times in your life and in your marriage when you've been on a sweet high, and then gosh, the next week you're on a low, and then you're on a high. And so it's really fun to go back at times and listen, or even have our listeners who are just getting on board, they'll be listening, excuse you, and they will go, oh my gosh, I loved episode 43, and I'm going, oh my gosh, what did we say in episode 43? And so we go back and you're like, oh, okay, I remember that episode, and listen to little snippets of it. But yeah, that's what it is now. It's just all about podcasting and sharing our week, sharing our lives, talking about, we really hone in on the 6 forms of intimacy. And we try to make each one of those episodes about at least one of those, if not a number of those intimacies.
Wonderful. Congratulations on your 102nd episode.
Thank you.
I just listened to that one this morning. I loved it, and I'm going to make my husband listen to it.
Good.
And we also look forward to the 7 Days of Sex Challenge. Our husbands look forward to that.
It's an annual tradition.
A lot.
That's annual. Third annual. We'll do that in May probably of this year. And so for those of you who are listening going, what the heck is 7 Days of Sex? So Alisa and I did our 60 Days of Sex Challenge. It was awesome. We loved it. It was a long time. I mean, it is tough. We've had one couple that has listened to us who's done, I think, 46 out of 60 days, Tammy and Kevin. And, not many others will jump on that. It's long. And so Alisa and I also were trying to figure out ways for us to become intimate and be physically intimate throughout the year. So what we did was, one year we just did it on our own, 7 days straight, and we really enjoyed it. And so the year after that, we opened it up to the One community for the first annual. We did the second one last year, and this year will be obviously our third annual 7 days. And we have usually 100+ couples who will join each year.
Mm-hmm.
And not all of them will comment. We don't know how many finish each year. But, it's amazing to see the transformation. Obviously, you guys have done it, so you know.
And the comments are almost as entertaining as the actual challenge.
Yeah, they get entertaining.
True, because we see couples over that time that go from, some that are really struggling, and they find that by making intimacy a priority, just for even such a short period as 7 days, it transforms their marriage. And I'm sure you've seen that in the comments.
Yeah, definitely.
It's really an amazing week for so many couples.
Definitely. Yeah, thank you. One of the ideas that we want to share in the Celebrate Life Summit is that all couples struggle, and it's how that you choose to deal with those struggles that makes a marriage awesome.
Yeah.
What kinds of things have you struggled with in your marriage?
Oh, gosh.
The laundry list.
Yeah, listen to episode 4 for the long version. For the short version, let's see, pornography, loss of a child, $50,000 in debt accumulated between the two of us. Child rearing is a struggle. Starting businesses. We've gone through it all. And
sick
parents, ourselves being sick, going through tough times, and it's never easy. That's for sure. There are those struggles, but I think as couples, if we look at those times and just go, you know what, we're here together and we're going to band together, and it may not be the prettiest, it may not be the easiest time right now, but we know that this marriage is really important to us. We know we're going to get on the other side. We're going to be stronger. We're going to learn from that. And one thing that Alisa and I now have done is we've talked through all those struggles. Even the past ones when we didn't talk about them. Like when we had the loss of our child, Andrew. That was really a dark time for both of us. And we didn't know how to talk to each other. We didn't have great communication skills. And so even though that happened 7 years ago now, we have gone back and talked about it and opened those wounds up. And even you really don't want to in a marriage because it's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to rock the boat. But for us, it's been like you open up those wounds so that they can really heal and so that you can grow stronger. And that's one thing we do. Anybody who listens to us, and if you haven't, please listen. You'll hear the ups and downs every week that Alisa and I have. And it's to share and to show with each of you that you're not alone. You're living in a marriage. We're two imperfect people trying to live in an imperfect world together in a house with kids and everything else that happens. And so we don't want it to be rosy and think that you're missing out on something because everybody else is perfect. We're not. And so we struggle. We continue to struggle to this day with stuff, and it's not going to end.
No. Who do you turn to when you guys are going through a tough time? Do you have resources that you go to during those times?
Oh, I think first and foremost, we pray. That's our first first line of attack when we feel under attack or when we feel we're being pulled in separate directions. We do have some good friends who are also pastors. They're family and marriage pastors that we've both sought out individually, and we've met with them together, and that's something that we share with a lot of couples. There's this big I can't think what the word is, but
gap.
Yeah, between it's like people will go and seek help. If they're not fit, they're going to go find a trainer and they're going to get the help they need because they want to have that body that they want. But if their marriage is in trouble, there's this big wall that they put up saying, I don't want anybody to know that we're less than perfect. I put on this pretty picture and I'll tell you everything's okay. And yet when we close the door at night or when the garage door shuts, inside the house is crumbling. And so we really encourage couples to, find a counselor. If it's, if you're in a church and you don't want people in your church to know, go to another church or go seek a therapist. But get the help, because it's much better to get the help when you first need it than to wait for the walls to be crumbling down and you find yourself in a situation that's irreversible. Yeah,
and we both have friends that we can go to. I have a couple of good friends that they're on speed dial. And so, and if something happens, I can talk to them. I know they're going to speak some truth into into my life, and I can listen to them, and that's where I go. And it's never a bashing. I'm never trying to bash on Alisa or anything. I'm just trying to state the facts and where I am as best as I can. And these folks will also tell me. They'll be like, Tony, you're getting a little off topic here. Let's rein it back in. And so, yeah, you do need people around you that you can do that with. It's very helpful. And I know for us, a lot of us, it's just busy to get one-on-one. And so, I just have my guys on speed dial. They know it as well, and we just make it happen that way.
Cool.
Awesome. In your guys' opinion, what is the number one thing or topic or issue that couples struggle with?
Communication?
I thought you might say that one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I would say communication is a big one, which ties into your emotional intimacy. Mm-hmm. It seems it's very easy nowadays to always just assume what your spouse is thinking instead of actually asking them. Again, it's that rocking the boat. Everything's good, so I'm not going to rock the boat. But really, you can have this great relationship if you're willing to step outside that boat and rock it a little bit. And communication is the big one. It's just, I don't know, Lisa may make a gesture or a look at me, and I could take it completely out of context, and I could spin that in my mind that she's upset with me and she's pissed off and she doesn't want to be around me. Or I could just go, hey, hon, what was that look for? Because I'm getting a different jive here, and she may just go, oh, you know what? My stomach's hurting right now. Yeah. Which can happen because we're just there. But communication's one, and then physical intimacy.
Yeah.
The actual physical, touch. It doesn't necessarily have to be intercourse, but just touch, hugs, kisses. Could be none happening, or it could be overt. Typically from the male side, just too much touch.
Yeah, I think, we hear Tony post questions every week on our Facebook fan page, on various topics. And, the communication piece comes up in so many different ways, from, couples not being able to get date night scheduled because nobody plans it. And, well, I think you're going to do it. No, I thought you were going to do it. To, we're such an electronic society anymore that, we might text our spouses 10 times a day, but do we sit down and have a conversation with them?
Right.
And so you run into that, well, no, we talk all the time, but, it's like the last 2 nights, we've spent probably an hour in bed just talking about what's going on. Getting, we're exhausted, but...
A lot of listening by Tony.
A lot of listening.
That's good.
And sometimes we just need our, and it's, in all honesty, sometimes we ladies just need our husbands to sit there and listen.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want you to solve my problems. I just want you to hear them.
Yeah.
And that's a form of communication, though. That's that emotional intimacy that she and I are meeting. Mm-hmm. It's different, and I have learned to understand that after 15 years of marriage, that it's just me just sitting there nodding my head, maybe nudging a little question here or there, but not necessarily trying to solve everything for her. And it helps. And I think that's where a lot of couples just struggle. We've seen it at different retreats, and we hear it, like Alisa said, on our Facebook or emails. It's just, there's a lack of communication, so they don't know what's happening, and then that's when all these thoughts start coming on, and it just spirals downhill from there. So.
You mentioned date nights. I know that's something that you guys believe in, and Crystal and I believe in too.
Yeah.
So do you want to just talk a little bit more about date nights and how people can find the time?
Yeah. They need to take them first off. Just you need to do it.
We have a chapter in our book, Stripped Down, 13 Keys to Unlocking Intimacy in Your Marriage, called Calendar It. And when we wrote the book, that was really referring to calendaring your sexual intimacy. But we've talked to so many people over the last few years about it that we actually broaden that to being calendar your date nights.
Yeah.
Crystal, you heard me talk on the episode this morning. You wouldn't think of standing up your dentist.
Yeah.
No, that's right.
You make a dentist appointment, it takes you 3 weeks to get the appointment. You're definitely not going to skip it. And yet, if something comes up with the kids, we tell, honey, you know what? Johnny's got a birthday party, so we're not going to be able to go to the movies or whatever. And, he's relegated to second-class status, as opposed to saying, you know what? Sorry, Sonny, you're not going to that birthday party. Daddy and I have got date night, and that's going to be the priority. So we really encourage couples to sit down, whether you've got it on Google Calendar, you both have your paper calendars, and say, okay, when are we going on dates this week, or this month, whatever.
This year.
We heard some couples that already said they've put all their date nights on the calendar for the year, and that's wonderful. Be open to impromptu date nights. The sitter calls and says, "Hey, I'm available tonight." Okay, guess what? We're going out.
Yeah.
And it's also telling couples, encouraging couples, it doesn't have to be a huge production every time they go out on a date. Sometimes it's enough just to not be in your own house. Go for a walk around the neighborhood. Go to the local bookstore and, pick out some books and just kind of sit there with a cup of tea. We're in San Diego, so walking along the beach. There's always the standard dinner and, movies and things like that. But I just talked to a gal the other day who, for her anniversary, wants to do something active. She goes, I just want to go for a bike ride with my husband. And I thought, that's wonderful. It lets him know exactly what you want to do. Takes the guesswork out of it. And it's something that you guys can go do together that's not just your dinner and a movie and, not that there's anything wrong with that, just if you're thinking outside the box, to do some other things.
I think the key is because of how fast society is constantly moving and we have all these things that are happening. And I don't remember this, early on in mine and Lisa's marriage. I just don't remember all the stuff that we deal with now. And it's not to say that I wasn't there. Maybe I was just oblivious. But because of how we have our smartphones and this and that and the other, it's just tougher to engage each other at times. And so, like she was saying with the calendar, it's very vital just to put that down. And don't let anything interrupt it. Other than, if a kid gets sick or you get sick, sure. But that's the key. I think too many times in our marriage, when it comes to date nights or days or whatever, we just relegate it like it can just be pushed aside if it doesn't work out for some reason, for minor reasons, really. And I think that really has to be looked at, that time really has to be looked at as very special time. It is a very special time. And case in point is Alisa and I have a date night Thursday. We're going to go to a show in Ocean Beach. Well, I just got a message that one of the band guys has the flu, so they're not having the show. So it's like, shoot. And we just asked each other. I told her about it. She goes, well, should we do date night? And I'm thinking, well, we got the babysitter set. The kids already want it. I'm like, yeah, we're going to go do it. Even if we go to Pete's Coffee and just have tea for 2 hours. Yeah. Let's get out of the house, like Alisa had said. So, we're honoring that time, and we're going to just go make something happen. It's a 7 o'clock show. It was supposed to be a 7 o'clock show, so we'll probably just do dinner here. And make it a cheap date night and just go, like I said, go get some hot tea at the Pete's Coffee and we'll just sit and chat for a couple hours. It's as simple as that, and it just allows us to just hang. And we may not talk for the whole time. We may look at our phones and do some other stuff, but at least we're out and we're away. And at least I get out enough that we can do that. If you only get out once a month and you haven't gone out on date nights in a while, leave the phones at home. You can listen to one of our episodes where Alisa yelled at me for taking my BlackBerry out and it's just horrible. Right. So leave those devices at home. You don't need them, really. You don't.
Be present.
Yes.
Yes, exactly.
Alisa, you kind of talked about different kinds of date nights. Can you elaborate a little bit more, both of you, on what your favorite date nights are, and if you have any date nights that couples can do on a budget? You kind of mentioned biking or just having a cup of tea or going for a walk.
Yeah.
My most favorite date was actually, I can't remember which anniversary it was, but for one of our anniversaries...
12th or 13th.
Yeah, it was 12 or 13.
13?
Yeah. Tony planned the whole night. I had already set up the sitter because I knew it was our anniversary, so I had that taken care of. And he said, you know what, it's my month for date night because we alternate who does the planning. Awesome. And he took the kids to the sitters, handed me a card, and said, open this after I pull out of the driveway. I said, all right, I like the sound of this. And so inside was this beautiful card with an itinerary for my evening. You know, the massage therapist was coming at such and such a time. We had reservations for dinner, and he would be back to pick me up, you know, after the massage was over. And so, you know, I'm completely relaxed after the massage. I go into the bedroom. He's picked out my clothes for me, which he doesn't do very often, but it was just kind of in tying with the whole, I don't have any decisions to make. And when we got to the restaurant, a sushi restaurant, he had already pre-ordered all my favorites. So, like, we sat down, and instead of having to wait, it, like, they took my drink order, and then everything just filled up the table. And so what I tell folks, and what we talk about a lot with the whole taking the lead, is that we make so many decisions on a daily basis. You know, you're constantly, okay, what am I going to wear? What are the kids going to do? Where do we have to be? What's coming up next? What do I need to do for work? That if you can have one night a month or one night every other month where you don't have to make a handful of decisions, you're not getting in the car for date night going, what do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want to, you know, you spend 20 minutes, you're laughing, so I know that you've been there.
Yep.
And, who hasn't?
You know, and so we alternate with that. And as far as, you know, low-cost date nights, one of the things that we did, before we ever even did the 6
Can I say what my favorite date night?
Oh, sure, go ahead.
All right. My favorite date night. My favorite date night has been, we went to Encinitas, which is on the coast here, and I set it up so it would be, we'd get there at sunset. And again, it was a little colder time of year, so I told Alisa, I made sure, I was like, Alisa, because she's always cold, I said, that's why we can't live up north. I said, make sure you get your big jacket on, and make sure you got your long pants on, because we're going to go somewhere. And we just drove to this real cool area. I forget what it's called in Encinitas, like the cliffs or something. It's just this gorgeous spot. We just backed in our car, and we just sat there and we watched the sunset until Lisa got too cold. And then we went into town, and we just had a simple meal. I think it was just like some Chinese place right there in Encinitas, and then we just walked around. And to me, most of my favorite dates are usually when we can get out and we can walk around a little bit and enjoy nature. I do enjoy that. There's something just about being out. And in the summer, it's a little easier because we'll go down to La Jolla and we'll walk the shores or some other areas. But gosh, when it comes to being cheap, I mean, pick any park you got in your town, and just, if you want to be really, you can just make a picnic.
Picnic lunch.
Yeah.
You know, and it more guys, the guys that are listening to, I mean, think about what Alisa said. Our wives have a crap load on their mind all the time. Take the lead and man up a little bit. Just, you know, just do something. And you'd be surprised how she'll respond. Our wives want us to be able to just go, I want you to do this. This is where we're going to go. Let's roll. And, you know, no ifs, and buts about it. Just, it's okay. And I'm not saying it's this big old machismo deal, but they enjoy that.
Right, because like I said, you know, he picks out my clothes, or he, you know, I appreciate it when he has considered enough to say, you know, we're going to be cold. You need to dress accordingly, because otherwise I'm miserable, and that will ruin anything he's got planned. But for other tips, you can check out museums. You can check out, we like theater and musicals, but we can't afford necessarily to always be going to the, you know, Broadway-style productions. And so, you know, high school shows, local youth theater, things that allow you to do what you love without necessarily having the price tag.
Yeah, on those.
You know, the simple walks. We often find ourselves in a coffee shop where, you know, it's $4 for 2 teas, and, you know, we sit and we talk.
Yeah.
One of the things I was going to say before Tony talked about his favorite date night was I think we talk about this in the book, making your list of the your top 10 favorite things to do, and you do this separately. So, you know, and there's no, like, I think this is what he would like to do. This is all about you. So you make your top 10 list of everything that you would like to do. He's making his top 10 list. And then you bring the list together and you see where there's overlap. And that's a great way to discover new things about each other, and also to start saying, oh, well, maybe we can go take a cooking class.
Yeah.
Or, I didn't know you wanted to go snorkeling. Let's, you know, see if there's a Groupon for snorkeling, whatever. But it's a fun way to discover things about each other and to start giving you the awareness to keep your eye out for those deals that might come up for those particular areas.
Yep.
Cool. Thank you. So tell us a little bit more about, we're just going to wrap up really quickly here.
Okay.
Tell us a little bit more about your podcast and maybe some of the things that you'd like our viewers to know about you guys and what you have coming up. And
wow. Yeah.
that you could
So
say.
OneExtraordinaryMarriage.com.
There you go. Yeah,
That's right.
Podcast, we release a new episode every Tuesday morning at 3 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So if you're on the East Coast, you can get it at 6 a.m. and that's up on iTunes. You can find it at One Extraordinary Marriage on iTunes as well. Subscribe there. You'll grab it. Alisa and I are both authors. We did write a book called Stripped Down, 13 Keys to Unlocking Intimacy in Your Marriage. And we go into more of the keys. Like Alisa said, calendar it. Another one's called Take the Lead. You know, we go into these and we really discuss them and dissect them, but we also give you a place to write. We have questions, and then you and your spouse can sit there and write and answer those questions together. So we want it to be an interactive book. We are speaking in Michigan on February 2nd and 3rd.
Cool.
Third
And
and fourth.
3rd and 4th, sorry. So if you're in that area, just hit up us on the One Extraordinary Marriage on Facebook. You'll find it over. We'll get you all the information there. And other than that, we're going to just be trying to speak some more this year. Our plan is to also put on a very small and intimate marriage retreat in October here in Laguna Beach, California. And more details of that will come out later in the year once we finalize all that.
Awesome.
Great.
Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so very, very much for participating with us here tonight and meeting with us at the Celebrate Life Summit. And we really are very appreciative of you guys helping us out.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
We
Thanks,
love
guys.
your podcast
Yeah.
and your challenges.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.
All right. Well, you guys have a great night.
You too.
And take care.